Ouagadougou burned beneath the gold dusk sky, heat rising from the concrete like a fever. Inside the marble halls of the Koulaba Palace, voices clashed like blades. President Ibrahim Traoré, just 36, and already nicknamed the Lion of Burkina, stood tall in his crisp olive military uniform, listening with clenched fists. His ministers sat stiffly around the circular war table, their eyes flicking to one another like predators sizing up the weak. They were arguing over a new military initiative, Operation Sorrow, a classified movement to root out insurgents in the Sahel using brutal scorched-earth tactics. Traoré was torn. He had promised liberation, but the path there was paved with ghosts. "This plan reeks of foreign fingerprints," growled Colonel Tambai, pounding the table. "We are not America's jackals. You sell our soil for their drones, Ibrahim." President Traoré didn't flinch. "Tambai, you think we can win this war with machetes and speeches? We are bleeding. Every village I visit, I see mothers burying sons. We need results, not slogans." Minister of Intelligence Fatima Kabor leaned in. Her voice was soft, but every syllable struck like a knife. "The chatter is growing. There's talk of defection in the northern brigades. There's even talk," she paused, letting the air thicken, "of a coup." Silence gripped the room. President Traoré looked from face to face. "Then they should come for me openly. I will not flinch in the dark." And somewhere in that darkness, someone was indeed preparing. In the crowded outer slums of Depoya, a small girl darted through the orange clay alleys with a stick and a plastic bag of fried plantains. Her name was Zula. 5 years old, she had hair like black cloud puffs and eyes that never blinked when they looked at you. Her mother, Aminata, sold water by the roadside. Her father had vanished during a sweep by the gendarmes last year. Collateral damage in the name of state security. Zula didn't know what collateral meant, but she knew it was why her mother cried at night. Zula had a gift. She heard things, not the way children overheard gossip in the streets, but truly heard things adults buried in whispers, things spoken behind thick doors. Her favorite game was spy time, where she'd crouch under market carts and eavesdrop. No one noticed a child in a world spinning too fast. That's how she ended up hearing about the snake. 3 men in black coats were arguing in the alley behind the mechanic's shop. She was licking sugar off her fingers when their voices snapped her into focus. "The president will be at the Children's Hospital Tuesday, noon. Security will be light. We strike then." Zula froze, crouching lower. "The snake wants it clean," one man said, lighting a cigarette. "No civilians, just the head of the state cut clean off." Another voice, gruffer, "If he's late, we improvise." The men chuckled and vanished like smoke. Zula didn't know who the snake was, but she knew what strike meant. She'd seen it happen once, an explosion near a government convoy. People ran, screamed, bled, and now they wanted to strike the president, the one whose photo hung in every shop, the one her mother prayed for in whispers. Zula looked down at her plantains, dropped them, and ran. Tuesday arrived, and the city tensed like a held breath. The Children's Hospital in Sector 4 was decorated with streamers and balloons. President Traoré was scheduled to cut the ribbon for the new pediatric wing. Cameras were in place, staff lined up in fresh uniforms, but Zula wasn't interested in any of it. She had spent the last 2 days sneaking back to the mechanic's alley, watching, listening. She saw the black-coated men return the night before. She followed one of them to a van behind the market mosque. She didn't sleep, she didn't eat, she only watched. Now she crouched beneath a garden cart across the hospital road, her eyes scanning every rooftop. At 5, she had no proof, no plan, and no authority. Just fear and a stubborn will. President Traoré arrived on schedule, stepping from his armored SUV with his usual poise, smiling as children gathered near the ribbon. He shook hands, laughed. The camera shutters clicked like gun hammers. Zula saw it, a man in a janitor's uniform, one she had seen entering the van the night before, was walking behind a utility cart too close to the perimeter. His left hand, awkwardly gloved, stayed inside his coat. Zula screamed, "Boom!" She shouted at the top of her lungs, tearing from her hiding spot and charging straight at the president. Boom man, boom man. Everything shattered into chaos. The bodyguards surged, people ducked, the janitor froze, and in that split second, one of Traoré's elite guards tackled the man to the ground. A pistol clattered onto the pavement. A wire poked from the glove. Seconds later, an explosive was found in the lining of the man's coat. Primed, disguised, lethal. Zula kept screaming as men wrestled her to the floor, not knowing what side she was on. President Traoré broke free and strode over, eyes narrowing at the child who had just diverted death. "Who are you?" he asked. She looked up, defiant. "Zula, I don't like booms." Behind him, the janitor screamed as he was hauled away. Somewhere in the shadows of a nearby building, a second figure watched, then retreated, silent, unseen. The snake had just lost the first round. Zula was sitting on a black leather chair 3 times her size, arms folded and cheeks smudged with dust. She'd been interrogated by 6 different men, asked the same questions over and over. "Who told you? Where were you hiding? How did you know?" No one could believe it. She didn't flinch. She repeated the same story each time with childlike bluntness. "I heard the boom men. They said they want to hurt the big man. I don't want him hurt." And then she asked for plantains. That moment broke the tension, even made a few of the officers chuckle, but not Colonel Tambai. He stood silently in the observation room, arms crossed behind his back, eyes locked on the glass pane that separated him from Zula. His thoughts churned. "She's either a puppet or a prodigy," he said finally. 5-year-olds don't crack assassination plots. Beside him, Fatima Kabor adjusted her veil and offered a sharp smile. "Sometimes truth wears little shoes, Colonel. Maybe the girl saved us from a war. Or maybe this is the beginning of one." Meanwhile, President Traoré had insisted on meeting Zula privately, against every protocol. His guards objected, his chief of staff barked, but Traoré dismissed them all with a wave of his hand. They were alone now in a private office, bathed in late afternoon light. Zula was chewing a mango lollipop. He was watching her. "You're very brave, Zula." She squinted at him. "Are you mad at me?" "Why would I be mad?" She shrugged. "Because you almost got boomed." Traoré laughed. It was genuine, deep. It cracked the armor he wore every day. "I should be dead today," he said, more to himself than to her. She stared at him. "But you're not. I stopped it." He leaned forward. "You did, and I owe you." Zula's face lit up. "Can I ride your big car with the flags?" He smiled, then paused. "How about something better? You stay here tonight, this palace, with your mama, safe." "Safe from who?" Traoré didn't answer. He stood, walked to the window, and stared out toward the golden horizon where the sun melted into the dust. Safe from the people who don't want Burkina Faso to change. But change never comes easy. That night, the air around the palace shifted. Extra guards were posted. Drones hovered low. Fatima Kabor was in the underground situation room with Tambai, studying intercepted radio chatter. What she uncovered sent a shiver down her spine. They're calling it the Resurrection Protocol. Multiple cells activated. The snake isn't just one man. He's an organization. This assassination attempt was just the beginning. They plan to seize key installations, military command, radio stations, power grids if Traoré dies. Colonel Tambai rubbed his temples. "How did they get this deep?" Fatima whispered. "Because we trained them." That silence between them was thunderous. They were interrupted by a young aide running in, breathless. "Sir, ma'am, there's a breach." "Where?" "The East Garden. Someone got past the outer gate. We think it's internal." Within minutes, chaos began to ripple again. President Traoré was rushed to the bunker under the palace, but Zula had vanished. She had wandered into the palace corridors again, chasing a cat, a real cat, orange, limping, ragged. She'd seen it earlier in the courtyard, thought it looked lonely. She didn't understand the fuss above her. Didn't hear the alarms. She followed it through the servants' wing and into a forgotten hall filled with ancient paintings. That's where she saw him, a man in a palace uniform, but not quite right. The buttons wrong. The boots too black. He didn't belong. He was placing something inside a wall vent. Zula froze. He didn't see her. She backed away, step by step, until her heel knocked into a vase. The crash was sharp, echoing. The man turned. For a second, both were still. Then he lunged. Zula screamed, and in that scream, echoing through the corridor, destiny pivoted again. Guards stormed the corridor moments later to find Zula cornered against the wall, the imposter fleeing through a side passage. Gunfire burst. The man dropped to the ground with 2 bullets in his back, dead before he could answer a single question. Inside the wall vent, a timed explosive set for 02:17 a.m., enough to bring down the wing housing the president's quarters. Zula had done it again. Traoré was stunned. Twice now, his life had hinged on the instincts of a child. He knelt in front of her after they brought her to the bunker. "You followed a cat," she nodded, eyes wide. "He was going to boom you again." He looked at Fatima and Tambai, then back at the child. "You see what others miss, Zula. You see with more than eyes." Zula stared at him solemnly. "My daddy used to say that before he got taken away." Traoré's jaw clenched. Who took him? Zula just looked down. He understood, and in that moment, something inside Ibrahim Traoré cracked. Not as a leader, but as a man. This was no longer about politics or strategy. There was rot in his house, and it had nearly cost him his life twice. And only a 5-year-old saw it coming. But in the shadows of the city, beyond the reach of palace walls, a final message was being delivered by courier. "The child sees too much. Read the encrypted note. Next time, we kill her first." The morning after the second assassination attempt, the capital city of Ouagadougou sat in a tense, disoriented hush. Soldiers lined the palace perimeter. Drones flew low. Intelligence units flooded communication lines, scanning for any whisper of the next blow. Inside the presidential bunker, a war council had been summoned. Traoré's most trusted aides, military command, cyber units, and for the first time, Zula's mother, Mariam, clutching her daughter's hand like a lifeline. "I didn't come here for politics," Mariam snapped. "You said we would be safe." "I meant it," Traoré replied, voice raw. "But safety costs blood now, and your daughter may be the only one in this room who sees through smoke." Zula sat quietly between them, doodling suns and birds on a folder labeled confidential, Operation Tin God. Her innocence was like a flame flickering in a war zone. Fatima Kabor tapped her tablet. The man Zula saw last night, he was an ex-guard, dismissed 2 years ago for insubordination, disappeared, no trace until now. Colonel Tambai added, "The explosives were advanced, military, grade. That doesn't happen without help from inside." Traoré narrowed his eyes. "So who among us is bleeding secrets?" No one spoke. A silent current of suspicion charged the air. Then Zula spoke softly, not looking up. The lady with the gold chain said, "If the little girl talks, we lose the plan." Mariam froze. "What lady?" "Zula. She was at the dinner place. She smiled too much." There was only one woman at the security dinner the night before the first attack who wore a gold chain, General Nage Sori, the former intelligence chief now reassigned to internal affairs. Fatima and Tambai exchanged glances. That name had come up before, buried under layers of encrypted emails and coded phone logs. The pattern made sense now. Within an hour, Nage was summoned under the pretense of an emergency meeting. She entered the bunker poised and calm, her uniform crisp, her eyes calculating. But the moment she saw Zula sitting beside the president, something flickered. Traoré didn't waste time. "You've served this republic for 19 years, Nage." 21, actually, she corrected, folding her hands. "You ever feel like the country betrayed you?" A pause. "What are you asking me? Did you betray it first?" Silence cracked like a whip. "I ask." Traoré continued, stepping forward, "Because a 5-year-old girl identified your voice while you were plotting to kill me." Nage's eyes widened, not in fear but fury. "You're basing treason on the babble of a child." "No. I'm basing it on your travel logs, encrypted texts routed through Cotonou, and the fact that a man you trained tried to detonate a bomb under my bed." Nage shifted. Her composure shattered. In one sudden motion, her hand moved toward her belt, but Colonel Tambai had anticipated it. Before her fingers reached the hidden blade, 2 guards pinned her to the wall. "Send her to Ouagadougou," Traoré ordered coldly. "No trial, let the shadows eat her." As they dragged Nage away, she locked eyes with Zula. "You don't know what you've started, girl." Zula blinked. "You don't know what I heard." By dusk, the intelligence net had pulled tighter. Dozens of sleeper agents embedded in the military were identified and detained. Security agencies were purged. A new unit, codenamed Falcon Echo, was formed to handle internal threats. led by Fatima Kabor, with direct reporting to Traoré and no one else. But something felt unfinished. Zula became quieter, withdrawn. She stopped asking for mango lollipops. Late one night, Miriam found her daughter sitting by the window of their assigned palace suite, watching the stars. "What are you thinking, baby?" Zula didn't answer right away. Then, "The man with the patch is still here." Miriam froze. "What man?" "The patch on his eye. He's in the shadows. I saw him from the garden." This was new. Zula hadn't mentioned a man with an eye patch. The next morning, Miriam went straight to Traoré. She saw someone else. She said, "He's still here." Traoré called in facial recognition logs. Dozens of hours of footage were reviewed. Finally, in grainy surveillance from the North Garden, a tall man in civilian clothes passed between trees. One eye covered, he moved like a ghost. Fatima ran a match. Codename Orun, real name unknown, Nigerian accent. Black Ops specialist, XMI-5 asset turned mercenary, the snake's final hand. A new plan was put in motion. Zula was moved to a false safe house. Traoré baited the snake, and on the third night of the operation, the palace fell into total silence. No lights, no guards visible, no chatter on the comms. It was an invitation. At 3:09 a.m., the man with the patch emerged. He walked past 2 checkpoints, bypassed biometric doors, and crept into the presidential suite with a silencer in hand. But the president's bed was empty. The man hesitated. That moment was enough. The trap snapped shut. Lights blazed, guards swarmed. Colonel Tam, by himself, appeared behind him, weapon raised, move and die. But the snake didn't flinch. He dropped the gun, raised his hands, and smiled. "You're too late." "What? You stopped me, sure, but you didn't stop her." Confusion turned to alarm. Fatima rushed to the surveillance desk. "Who is her?" It hit them like thunder. There was another player in this game, and somewhere in the west wing of the palace, just as the morning sun began to rise, Zula opened her door, only to find a woman with silver earrings and a warm smile standing there. "I'm here to take you to your mama," she said sweetly, but Zula blinked. "I don't know you." The woman's smile faded, and the palace went to lockdown again.